Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, perhaps, like me, you have an excess of latex paint lying about from a project or two and have no idea what to do with it beyond just chucking it in a landfill. Students from the Northampton High School Key Club know what to do with it, and we'll talk with them later in the show.
And as we're on the penultimate day of National Poetry Month, we'll hear about the monthly Queer Poetry Open Mic, which will happen at 10 Forward in Greenfield tonight. But first...
Does that work?
To make it a little bit easier for you?
Yeah.
Yes.
That should be good.
I'm a big mover is the problem.
Yeah. I'm Italian, so I have a tendency to flail as well. But I've gotten used to it over the years.
While we talk on the radio, and we just assume that everybody understands their...
Oh, yeah?
Well, our guest today needs no introduction, so we won't. It is U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren running this November for a third term as senator from Massachusetts. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Fantastic. Welcome to Western Mass. Where have you been in Western Mass so far on this visit? Where are you headed next also?
Oh, I like that. I'm actually headed just around the corner where I'm going to be there to celebrate $550,000 that Senator Markey and I brought in to advance Latino business development. And I'm really excited about that. And just before this, we were celebrating $1.2 million that we brought into Project Hope for adults with significant disabilities, and we're helping rehab their building. It's an important part of what we need to be doing. So I'm out actually celebrating money going into the local community right out here in Western Mass and loving every minute of it.
And I think a lot of taxpayers like to see where that money is spent, regardless of whether the senators or representatives have voted for that package. They do love to tout it as well.
But it's true. Because part of what this is about is, sure, there are a lot of things that a big federal government has to spend money on that you may not see up close and personal. But to be able to see some of that money spent right here in your local community on projects that matter and that are, quite frankly, nearly always shortchanged. And how we have this opportunity now with congressionally directed spending, which formerly known as earmarks, and I know everybody
Now they're
goes,
called earmarkies for Senator Ed Markey.
So I like that. But, the truth is, look, there's a lot of restrictions on them now. They got to be public. You got to make clear who asked for them. There's none of this secret, immaculate conception for how the earmark got there. No backroom deals. It can only go to nonprofits, to towns and nonprofit outfits. The Democrats get to decide how they want to distribute. The Republicans get to decide how they want it. We get equal amounts of money. And so we distribute it among us and see each other's projects, but see the projects that the people in Massachusetts come in and say, here's a place that we could use a little help and it could get us over the line, to be able to finish a bike trail, to be able to finish out a school auditorium in a way that the kids can actually put on plays, and to remind people government is not just a distant, far-off thing. It's a thing that touches you right here in your community. Hey, anybody listening to us need insulin? Average costs for that last year were around $240 a month. Now, because of government at work, Democrats fought for this, it's $35 a month for insulin for seniors all across the country. Nobody pays more than that. That touches you where you live. Student loan discharge. More than 4 million people whose lives have been made a whole lot better because their student loans have been wiped out. So
and I know
I'm just saying matters.
You were on the phone with Ayanna Pressley calling people. I saw that video who had their student loans raised. That must have been a thrill to call them and to receive that call.
It is.
And we're speaking with U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren. And insulin, obviously, is very personal to people. A school auditorium is very localized, and that's where a lot of people think tax dollars should go. The big news story of last weekend was the package that went for foreign aid. Now, you were quoted in Politico about the war in Gaza. You said, if you want to do it as an application of law, I believe that they'll find that it is genocide. And they have ample evidence to do so. You voted yes for the National Security Supplemental. It was not divided into separate votes like it was in the House of Representatives. We spoke to Representative Jim McGovern about this. Senators like Bernie Sanders and Peter Welch from Vermont did join the GOP, some GOP members, and vote no on this. Talk about your decision to vote yes on that package.
So remember how this package started. It's about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are now into their third year of fighting off this Russian assault. And people are dying. But here's the thing to understand about our interests. Anyone who thinks that if Putin can overrun Ukraine, that he'll stop there, is not paying attention either to Vladimir Putin or to European history. The United States has the North Atlantic Treaty Organization obligations that if any of the European countries that are members are attacked, we treat it as we are attacked. One is attacked, all are attacked. And that means we are at war with Russia. Getting the money to Ukraine is fighting for a democracy. It is also fighting to hold back that Russian aggression right now at the Russia-Ukraine border rather than watching it invade much deeper into Europe and entangle the United States. I'm going to be blunt. We should have gotten that money to Ukraine half a year ago. I feel like it is a real commitment to our future that we get that help for Ukraine.
So the help for Ukraine outweighed the notion of what was going on in Gaza and the support for Israel?
You know, it is all in a package.
Right.
The way I would describe it is I put in an amendment to strengthen controls, conditioning over the money that goes to Israel. It doesn't have the votes. I also co-sponsored another bill to say that we would put a limit so that the money could only be used for defensive weapons, not for
the Iron
offensive
Dome.
weapons.
Yep.
That's exactly right. And to put money in for UNRWA, which provides all the infrastructure for delivering humanitarian aid in Gaza. And I'm going to continue fighting for all of that. The problem, of course, right now is Prime Minister Netanyahu. Israel has a right to defend itself. It has a right to fight to get the hostages back. Holding those hostages is violation of international law. But international law also requires care for civilians and access to humanitarian aid. Prime Minister Netanyahu is directly responsible for 2,000-pound bombs being dropped in densely populated areas. That is not care for civilians. And he has kept a chokehold on humanitarian aid for 6 months now. And it is literally the case that there are thousands and thousands of children, of women, civilians, who are on the brink of starvation. We need to be pushing much, much harder and put a stop to this.
U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren joins us here on the Fabulous 413.
I'm going to take a segue to a slightly less, we'll just say it's slightly less intense. Marijuana is essentially legal in Massachusetts. And you and Senator Fetterman from Pennsylvania are looking to take cannabis off of Schedule 1. You've got some backing from the Vice President, Kamala Harris. Why is this an important point for you?
Okay, so the DEA schedules drugs.
Right.
And it tells us about drugs that are really, really scary and drugs that are just, you got to be careful with them and so on. So a Schedule 1 drug is heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. Do those seem a little different from each other? And now we live in a world where the overwhelming majority of states have legalized marijuana at the state level. The problem with keeping it scheduled, it has two effects. One is it means we may make it legal for Massachusetts law, but it's not legal for federal law. And that gives the feds the ability to come in and engage in enforcement actions. Marijuana businesses, for example, have trouble accessing the banking system.
Or if you work for a marijuana business, getting a mortgage.
That's exactly right. So you get all of those tangles. In addition to that, I'll do my wonky thing that always bothers me. When you're a Schedule 1 drug, it's almost impossible to do any research. So figuring out things like how much marijuana can be in your blood system before you are impaired and shouldn't be driving? And how would you know about that? Can't run those tests, can't get that information out there. So really my message, and John Fetterman, he's a great partner on this, my message with Senator Fetterman is we want to hold up a big sign for the DEA and say, join the 21st century. It is not 1954, and we didn't all just watch Reefer Madness in 7th grade science class. Let's treat this drug differently. Let's get away from treating this as criminalization. Look, I would like to pass a bill in Congress, but the Republicans keep blocking us. Maybe you will notice a pattern to some of the things I say today.
I haven't noticed.
But even if the Republicans block us, the alternative way to do it is through the Drug Enforcement Agency if they would change scheduling. They have had it on their plate for months now, and John Fetterman and I are saying, come on, guys, it's time.
Speaking with U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, let's talk about solar power.
Ooh, yes.
I have solar on my house, and I'm not a wealthy person, and you want to make sure that people who are not wealthy have an opportunity to transition to solar as well. Can you talk a little bit about what you've been introducing when it comes to solar?
Yes.
And how does this have an impact with like residential versus industrial solar?
Oh, so this is like so cool. So you may remember in the first 2 years that Joe Biden, after he gets elected, we have this skinny majority in the House, and we have this ultra skinny majority in the Senate. So we got a couple of bills passed. They're good. We got bipartisan infrastructure. We want to do one more slug of work, and the work we want to do is climate work. How are you going to pay for it, though? Because we put a lot of carrots on the table in this climate bill that we were fashioning together. So I had an idea, and the idea is a 15% minimum corporate tax on these companies that report $1 billion or more in profits. And right now we're paying little or nothing. And yes, Amazon, I'm looking at you. The year we did this, Amazon reported to its shareholders and set its CEO pay based on $11 billion in profits and paid zero in taxes. So this is a minimum corporate tax. Here comes the best part. Big enough to pay for the largest climate package in the history of the world. We still need to do more, but let's celebrate what we got, because you just hit the heart of this package. So this package says solar, solar, solar. We will help, and we will help through infrastructure grants, all kinds of things to help commercial get solar. That's big buildings, all for that. But the other thing we're going to do is we're going to get solar on top of schools and town buildings. How do you do that? You've got to give them money. And then we set up a second program, or a third program, I guess that would be, and that is for people of, I'm just going to call it modest income. It's not a project just for poor people. This is a project for middle-class folks, working folks. And the idea is if you want to get solar on your house, you want to get solar on your condo, and here comes the best part. You want to get solar and work with your landlord because you're a tenant. We've put aside a bunch of federal money to help make that work. But the part I love, you know me, I'm always about family economics. It means your utility bills go down. So anybody who wants to learn about the program, they can go to my website, elizabethwarren.com, punch in solar. A lot of the solar dealers now, if you call them, they're now hip to what's going on in the solar world and all the places that you can get subsidies to be able to get solar on your roof, in your backyard, wherever you want to put it. And I want to see us do this in Massachusetts. We're ahead of the curve in understanding the risks of climate change and the need for all of us to do the pieces we can do. And when we get 100 people, 1,000 people, 1 million people making these changes, we start to change the world.
You are running for your third term as a U.S. Senator.
I am.
I saw you for the very first time as a public figure on The Daily Show, crunching numbers in a way that was inspirational, I will say. And you were a professor, working on economics, advocating for consumer rights. What makes you want to continue to fight from the inside in the U.S. Senate versus going back to some of the advocacy that you may have been doing previously?
Because I've now been able to get a lot done. and I love getting stuff done. Look at the student loan debt cancellation. We're already at more than 4 million people who've gotten their debts canceled. 43,000 right here in Massachusetts already on the slope toward 30 million people who will get their student loan debts canceled. Cut the cost of hearing aids from thousands of dollars down to a few hundred. In on the big junk fee fight from the very beginning. My Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has been leading the charge on getting rid of the junk fees on check overdraft and credit card late fees. These are things that literally are costing people collectively billions of dollars a year. And instead, you just leave a little more money in people's pockets. Being able to work on tax, this is a big deal for me. The giants have not been paying their fair share on taxes. It's just incredibly unfair that big corporations hire these armies of lobbyists to create loopholes, and then they pay nothing, and the rest of America has to pick that up and pay. When you've got the job and you start getting in there and you're willing to fight and you're willing to partner up with other people. Some of these are bipartisan that I'm talking about. Some are definitely not bipartisan, but things that you can push through, you can make a real difference. But there's more we still need to do. Look, we've got to protect access to abortion. That's a key fight for me. We've got to protect voting rights, the right to vote, the right to get your vote counted, the anti-gerrymandering. We need universal child care in this country. We need to rebuild our housing stock in America. There was a time when the federal government pumped lots of money into housing. I grew up in one of those houses in Oklahoma, a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath garage converted to hold my 3 brothers, right? We haven't put money into housing as a nation, and boy, it is showing now. We need to do more on the climate front. We need to do more on gun safety. So I think of it this way. I've been able to deliver, and there's more I want to deliver. And that is what wakes me up early in the morning and keeps me up till late at night.
You mentioned your taxes, but like your new tax bill about making IRS errors, I think is actually really interesting.
You love that?
I do, in no small part because that happened to me. But not because of the child credit, because of an issue with like royalties and how things are scheduled and the giant amount of scheduled, but just like making things clear for people also ends up putting money back in their wallets. And I think that's pretty cool.
And, you have to put in just a little tiny plug for direct file. So the idea that people will be able to file their taxes directly online and not have to pay H&R Block or TurboTax, 150, 200, 250, go through 9. We tried one of these, 9 separate efforts to upsell you to the next thing to pay more money. This has been my whole life before I ever came to the Senate. The economics of the working class in America, the economics of middle class America, and how the game has become increasingly rigged against families, and how we have a chance, just a chance right now, to start turning that the other way. And it's not that we just stand up and do empty promises. Damn, we've actually done some of it. The $35 insulin, that matters. 4 million people getting rid of their student loan debt, it matters. People who aren't getting cheated on hearing aids, who aren't getting cheated on check overdraft. Is it everything we need? No. But does it show you that fighting on the side of working people can actually pay off? Yeah, it does. Watch what the unions are doing now, right? I just love it. The unions are out there fighting for working people. You know what our job is? You give us the trifecta, the House, the Senate, and the White House in the election of 2024, and we're going to pass, it's called the PRO Act, to make it easier for everybody who wants to join a union to join that union, and to force those employers to come to the table to negotiate with those unions. That will help change people's lives.
U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you so much for coming to visit the Fabulous 413 today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, of course.
Later in the show, Max Hartley and Alex Soroyce from the Northampton High School Key Club and one of their advisors, David Starr from Berkshire Naturals, who have weekend plans for the buckets and buckets of latex paint you have hanging around in your basement.
Why do you have so much paint in your basement? Up next, more poetry. We'll hear work from Kai Preto and Kaya Jackson and find out all about their queer poetry open mic, which happens at 10 Forward in Greenfield tonight.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. Fabulous 413 is funded by NAI Plotkin, celebrating 60 years as a full-service real estate company providing comprehensive solutions in western Massachusetts and northern Connecticut. sdplotkin.com. And by Emily Dickinson Museum, honoring the anniversary of the poet's death with the annual Poetry Walk on Saturday, May 11th. Learn more at emilydickinsonmuseum.org.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. April is National Poetry Month, so we've been talking with poets all month long.
And although we've had the chance to talk to poets near and far to celebrate the month, we don't want to forget the organizations and events that are appreciating the wealth of talent we have here in Western Mass all year round.
So we're excited to acquaint ourselves and you with the folks behind the monthly Queer Poetry Open Mic Night, which on a monthly basis brings queer writers together to showcase their work. With us are organizers of the event, Kai Preto and Kaya Jackson, who bring those writers in 210 Forward in Greenfield each month. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here.
Where did this night come from? Whose idea was it?
Kai?
So we have a mutual friend, Catherine Weiss, who is also a local poet. We were at one of her poetry features. She had a new book coming out. Catherine came up to us and was like, "You've both been interested in starting an open mic. Do you want to do it together?" And we were like, yeah.
It was pretty amazing synchronicity. I had been looking for a co-host and nothing was lining up. And I felt like as soon as Catherine brought us together, it just felt perfect. One side note is that Kai and I actually used to be part of Northampton Poetry, or NoHoPo, which was a beloved space where I spent a lot of time in my 20-somethings when I was just really figuring it out and just learning how to get behind the mic for the first time and in the very beginning stages of finding my voice as a poet. So it was really lovely to reconnect together and create a new space in this new era we're in.
Are you bringing a lot of the spirit of that original group to this night at 10 Forward?
I think some of it. I learned so much being an audience member and participating. I did a feature at Northampton Poetry years ago. I don't remember how long ago, a while ago. And then there were some parts we really, really liked, and then some things we just wanted to do a little differently. So one of the things that we decided on was to put the feature actually in the middle of the open mic, because we always noticed people would leave. They were like, okay, I came, I heard my friend read, and I don't really know that feature, and, I'm going to go get a hamburger. We get that. We totally get that, which is why we also want to have it in the middle.
Who is the feature?
Well, it's
Kaya?
our one and only Kai Preto.
Who also joins us in the studio.
Yeah, so we've had amazing features. This will be our 8th month, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know. We have someone for May. We have someone for June. What are we going to do for April?" And Kaya was like, "Well, you could feature." And I was like, "I don't. Nobody wants to hear me read." And they were like, "That's not true." And so I said, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm really excited about it.
Well, since you've now mentioned that you're featuring, how about we hear some of your work?
Sure.
This is Kai Preto, who will be featured tonight at 10 Forward in Greenfield.
All right. Electrogenic. I had been told to drown as fish is to be full up with oxygen, to become buoyant with oxygen, to bloat and expand like overstretched balloon, like blobfish so unjustly named. But I know that there is oxygen in the ocean, and it is not too much, but not enough that dries out their skin and leaves them breathless. So to desire land and dirt and stone, perplexing inversion of sea, of wave and moon tug and silt, is to be unfish, say the others who will shrivel in the scathing sun. But truth is a motley thing that wears many faces. I did not know I was electric eel, obligate air breather, hundreds of volts swirling in a self-protective storm. I cannot breathe through my gills no matter how often I am told to, how often I have tried. Yet I can survive where gill breathers cannot. And I can survive to underwater long enough to masquerade as fish. But when I race to the surface, gulp mouthfuls hungrily into bloody mouth, I expand, not over full but satiated, and bask in the sun that the other fish cannot understand, will never see.
Been learning about snapping after poetry, and I love it. That's Kai Preto, who will be featured at the Queer Poetry Open Mic Night tonight at 10 Forward in Greenfield, a monthly occurrence there.
So what does the open mic look like? We've heard a little bit about its structure, but like, what is it like being a part of that community? What does the evening entail?
Kaya Jackson.
It starts with lots of hugs as people come in the door. We're a small crew that puts the event on, and it's a small but lovely and ever-evolving community of poets who comes, and some people come just to listen as well. Just as important is the poetry we share in the space we hold for each other to be at our own edge and share our brave truths. It's like also the edge of like, what does it mean to like build intimacy in this small community where we all just like keep learning these new dimensions of each other over time, and then to feel like we're welcoming each other home in a moment in time when a lot of queer folks and trans folks really don't feel welcome in some public spaces. And of course, we're lucky to live in Western Massachusetts in many ways. And there's something to the intentionality of how we're holding this space to really center queer voices that I think it gives a lot of permission for folks to bring parts of themselves that they might choose not to bring in some other spaces that they're a part of. Like everything that I get excited about, the vibe is about community care and relationship building and trust building.
I would definitely second that. I think creating like a cozy, warm, welcoming space was something that was really important to us. But there's always that time between when you sign up and when you read, where if you don't know anyone or there's no one you feel comfortable talking to that night, you like don't know what to do with yourself. So one of the things I've been trying and has been really great and successful is having, doors and sign up starting at 6:30. We start about 7:30. And that hour, I have writing prompts that are ready, as well as lots of like magazines and books for people to do blackout poems, which if you don't know what that is, you take something that's not poetry. So an article from a magazine, Vogue is often really fun to pull from, or you take it from like, I don't know, maybe a science textbook, and you take a Sharpie and you go through and you black out words until what remains is something different than what you started with. For a lot of folks who come and are like, I'm not a poet, that is often a way into poetry for them. And then they go, I made this really cool thing.
Up next, another poem, this time from Kaya Jackson, and more on the Queer Poetry Open Mic happening tonight at 10 Forward in Greenfield.
And later, if you're looking for something to do with all your leftover latex paint, no worries. The Northampton High School Key Club has got you covered.
Like a fresh coat of paint. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM. We're speaking with Kai Preto, who is the featured poet tonight at 10 Forward in Greenfield for their monthly Queer Poetry Open Mic Night. We're also speaking with Kaya Jackson, who's part of this enclave of poets that meet there at 10 Forward, this unabashedly queer-positive space that's allowing for not just queer poetry, but all sorts of other queer manifestations to happen night in and night out in Greenfield. I'm imagining that a Poetry Open Mic Night is a vulnerable situation at any time, to go up there with a poem that you've written and to recite it in front of an audience. Talk about why that's something that energizes you to perform your poems in front of an audience in this way. Kaya?
I'll take this on. So speaking from like the queer experience, like I think many of us had experiences of going for years and years and years without sharing major pieces of who we were, right? Not just on stage, but in public in our everyday lives. And so I feel like there's a way that it's this like re-encounter with a newfound opportunity to share a part of who we are. You know, honestly, the adrenaline of walking on stage is a little bit addicting too. I ask myself before I go on, like, do I really want to do this? And I'm like, no, I don't. And then but I push through that. And then it feels like this opening. And I'm always proud of myself after it happens, sometimes not during, but after. And we also start with usually some kind of guided meditation or like orienting breath together as a group, because just with awareness that like nerves are up for people, trauma can come up when we're being that vulnerable in public. But there's that element of just reclaiming and like recreating the community that we want together that feels really core to that experience.
Poetry has been such an important outlet for me for more years than I want to count. You know, I was incredibly shy and really bullied in high school, and poetry was such an important outlet to me. I could go to an open mic at 16, mostly with older folks, and like probably read some pretty cringy poetry that I don't want to go back and read. But it was so important to me to be held and embraced in that space. And I think it's continued to be that for me. I really do think of myself as an introvert. But when I get up there, I had my fiance tell me recently that I am most myself when I'm reading my poems. And I sit with that.
That's Kai Preto, who's the featured poet tonight, 10 Forward in Greenfield at the Queer Poetry Open Mic Night that happens monthly there, right below Mesa Verde in Greenfield. We're also here with Kaya Jackson. Kaya, do you have a poem that you want to share?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to share this one called An Incantation for Movement Makers in Times of Doubt and Contemplation. As some folks in this community know, I do a lot of organizing in different ways, arts organizing and also organizing for a free Palestine. And so this is a poem that I actually wrote years ago when I was training as a movement chaplain, as somebody to offer spiritual care to organizers and activists, because we know how burned out we can all become in the kind of work that we do and the spaces that we hold. As the world breaks open and smoke pours out, may your body be your prayer. May your ears keep on listening for worlds not yet spoken. May your mouth be always praised, a gift that keeps on giving. May your eyes carry the flame of ancestors, glimmering where there is no light. May your hands reach for hope, unfettered. May your feet remind you of what is possible, to be here. May your intention plant the seeds of our lives in sacred soil. May your actions tend the garden of our bodies with water as pure as love. May our hearts join in the long-awaited chorus, like birds flying home. Hey, I love the snap.
So great.
What makes a poet's work jump out at you that you'd want to feature them?
I feel like we just know when we know. One of our very first features was Sapphire, who is a local Black musician and poet who is the child of two deaf parents and incorporated ASL into her entire performance. It was so incredibly powerful. And that is the kind of energy that we want to bring.
We're coming at the end of National Poetry Month. Do you, either of you, have a poet that you want people to read a little bit more of in the spirit of National Poetry Month?
Ooh. Well, one for me is actually our feature next month, Maya Williams, who is the current poet laureate of Portland, Maine. They just have a new collection out entitled Refused a Second Date. They are delightful, and if you can come out May 27th, you can see them in person.
Even better. Kaya Jackson?
Yeah, so I have this book in my bag, so that's the one that's meant to be shared in this moment. It's called Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear by Mossab Abu Toha. Yeah, it's just incredibly beautiful. I've been pulling from this in local standouts and organizing meetings, and it's a gold mine. And before we close, is it okay if I just do a shout out to 10 Forward?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
I just want to say, 10 Forward, the venue, it holds space for this once a month, but it holds space almost every day of the week for incredible, vibrant, queer arts events of all kinds. And it's just feels like a place where people go to like thrive and grow and be in community, and sometimes tell a joke for the first time, or sometimes just like go and like be with people. I can't say enough about how transformative and necessary it has been for so many people in Franklin County and beyond. And so I just want to give a special thank you to 10 Forward, and also like invite folks who haven't been to an event there to check out something that's happening.
And frankly, if you have been to 10 Forward, they're doing a really cool thing with Patreon where you get like a little bit more involved with the space and the community at large. You can find more information about that on their Instagram page and on their website. Kai Preto and Kaya Jackson, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about your queer poetry open mic night. It's happening at 6:30 p.m. tonight, but happens every last Monday of the month.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Up next, Max Hartley and Alex Royce from the Northampton High School Key Club and their advisor, David Starr from Berkshire Naturals, on their event at Smith Folk this Saturday. It's an environmentally friendly solution for your old latex paint.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
I don't care, I paint the town red. I say what I say.
I had to do paint-related music. Now you got the spoiler for the last paint one.
Well-
Those 2 seconds. Oh, well.
Oh, well, it's not as if that people would not have guessed that that was going to happen.
I know.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
You didn't know Doja Cat was going to happen, though, did you? And I'm Monty Belmonte. For the past 3 years since COVID, the Northampton High School Key Club has continued its legacy of community service led by public school students with a new focus of environmental sustainability.
Under the guidance of local businessman and climate activist David Starr, they have organized numerous efforts to create a more sustainable community. This fall, they staged a successful collection in collaboration with a Massachusetts-based business that collects and recycles paint and raised thousands of dollars in profit for our club.
And this weekend, on May 4th, they're hoping to replicate their success and stage a second successful paint drive to close out the most successful year of the club's history.
Max Hartley, event coordinator for the Northampton High Key Club Board Junior?
Yes.
Great. And Alex Royce, outgoing Northampton High School Key Club Board President.
Yes.
Senior.
Yes. You got to throw the outgoing in there.
Yeah, that's right. Senior. And we're also joined in the studio by David Starr, who's the managing partner for Berkshire Naturals. And maybe we'll have a little time to talk about that healthy vending thing. Full disclosure, Alden Bourne, who worked for the NEPM News Department, is your partner on that as well. But if people aren't familiar with Key Clubs, this is a sort of an international organization. Let's speak with the current president, the outgoing Key Club president, Alex Royce. What is the Key Club?
Yeah, a lot of people don't usually know what it is, and I think when I first started out, I thought it was a club about keys.
Yeah.
But basically,
if somebody
it is...
says Key Party, it's a totally different thing. You're too young for that. This is a different thing.
All right. Yeah. So it's the child organization of Kiwanis International, which is a club founded in the early 1900s, which focuses on community service. And so this is an opportunity for high schoolers to kind of learn a little bit more how to serve their community and stuff like that. And we have a very local focus. We really work with local businesses and local charities. But we do have to pay dues to our international organization, and we do coordinated projects with them as well.
And so what drew you to the Key Club as opposed to some other clubs that might have been available at Northampton High?
Yeah, so I think I had become a freshman during the COVID years, and so it was really kind of an attempt to become familiar with the school and social stuff like that. Because while we were virtual at the time, the Key Club was actually being able to meet in person, primarily outdoors. So I thought this would be a fun opportunity to kind of meet new people and kind of get like a real true introduction into high school. And so I started out with that, and I kind of fell in love with volunteering and kind of like the emotion that it has and like the fulfillment, that personal fulfillment that has. So I kind of moved forward through that. Yeah.
What about you, Max? What made you want to be part of the Key Club?
Well, you're looking at him over here. Alex, honestly, I I didn't really, like a lot of kids, I kind of went into it at first just being like, well, I got to get involved in my community. Like, like all the kids who are successful are always throwing themselves into things. Alex, what should I do? And he was like, oh, Key Club's the move. Like at the time, he was the grade representative, so just a lower board position. And I came to a Memorial Day flag planting at Graves, and it kind of struck me as just like a really touching and emotional thing. And people, while we were there at the graveyard, there were these two elderly women, and they were like, oh, like our husbands were in Vietnam, and like, oh, we're here every weekend. Like, thank you so much for doing this. Like, let me know if you need help finding his grave. And it was just like that's really powerful to have these people just like seeing, like people caring about their loved ones, and just being able to have an impact directly in your community and seeing it. And from then on, I was kind of hooked. And so I ran for the sophomore event coordinator position, and now I'm the event coordinator. And it's just been something that, you kind of get into and you never leave because it's just a lot of fun. You're with your friends and you're making the world a better place.
So this is a sort of like the sibling organization to Kiwanis. Have you interacted with the local Kiwanis Club, and what has happened with those collaborations? Or is this is a collaboration between the Key Club at Northampton High School and the local Kiwanis?
David Starr?
Well, all Key Club activities are sponsored by Kiwanis. We need them to be the insurer of all of our events. They bring adult volunteers to our events. So, yeah, they're usually collaborations between the two clubs.
And the event that is being coordinated is this Saturday at Smith Voke, and it is a latex paint collection. Now, I have lived in my house for 20 years, so there have been many rooms that have been painted many different colors. What are you looking for? What can I bring? What can't I bring? And how much is it going to cost me? Should we talk to let's talk to the event coordinator about this one,
Well,
Max Hartley.
You can bring any latex paint, no oil-based paints or varnishes or anything.
Does it have to still be in liquid form, or what if it's all dried in the bucket?
We process the dried paint as well, so we still recycle that. We actually separate it from the cans at the event, so we'll take latex, water-based, or acrylic paint in an original labeled container. And so although the recolor doesn't recycle the dried paint, we process the can, so we separate the aluminum from the dried paint, and then we dispose of the aluminum through recycling, and then we just throw out the dried paint. And so it's going to cost about $5 a can, and if you pick it up separately, it's a price per can, but we can come drive to your house and pick it up for you. And
wait, so I don't even need to bring it?
You don't even need to bring it.
We can pick it up right at your house.
Whoa.
We have a pickup service.
That changes the whole game.
But can people bring it too, or is that preferable?
Yeah, the main thing is we're gonna have people bringing it. It's kind of like a long, like a Rube Goldberg machine, kind of just like shopping cart after shopping cart. And you can bring as much or as little as you want. We have people dropping off 1 or 2 cans, and then we have people who are filling our shopping carts, to the sky with 40 cans at times, or 25. It's a lot.
This Monty, this is an event that is open to not just Northamptonites, but anyone that wants to bring paint. This is not a city-run event, and our mission is to keep latex paint out of the landfill. So if you have latex paint and you want to get rid of it, because if you have read the law and know what it takes to get rid of latex paint, it takes a very long time. Months to dry it out, days to add kitty litter if you're going to go that route. So this is the easiest way to get rid of it.
Yeah, and they get an opportunity this Saturday at Smith Voke in Florence, and we're speaking with the Key Club members from the Northampton High School Key Club, Max Hartley and Alex Sorois, as well as their business advisor, David Starr from Berkshire Naturals. Well, tell us about the process, like what's going to happen to the paint so that it will actually be recycled?
Yeah, correct. So basically, Recolor, which is a local business, Milton, Mass, is that what?
Hanover, Mass.
Hanover, Mass, correct. So they're going to be taking all of the acrylic paint, and then they're going to be consolidating it. So you won't have those like fancy colors you have at the paint store, like those like light blues and all that stuff, but you will have your basic colors, like a black, browns, and stuff like that. And so they'll be consolidated into larger vats, and then these will be repackaged and sold at local stores.
Wow.
That's cool.
That is cool. And then what happens with the dried paint?
That's actually safe to throw away. It's only dangerous when it's wet, but once it's dry, it poses no harm to the environment, so that can be thrown away.
But still, if you can keep it out of the landfill and not letting it get dry, and the time it takes to get dry, as
Well, it
David
just
mentioned.
means that you have to shift your art project from something that you would paint with to something you would build with.
Yeah,
'Cause
sculpt.
now it's
Yeah.
a brick.
Yeah, right.
What encouraged the shift from your previous projects to things that were more environmentally focused?
I became the faculty
Oh,
advisor.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's David Starr, who's a climate activist and working on natural food vending is what your profession is, right?
The Key Club used to have 25, 30, 35 members. Alex became the president this year, and we have 150 members.
Wow.
So that gave us a core of volunteers to pull off events like this paint event will take 100 volunteers in order to make it work. And we couldn't have done it if Key Club wasn't the size that it is.
Well, that's great. Well, how did you get so many people on board, President Alex?
Well, I think it was a really big advantage to be starting out in 9th grade because I was able to kind of like work my way up through the club, and I was also able to see kind of what worked and what didn't. And I really understood that like there's certain things that motivate people more than others, and one is food. So I found that by offering donuts at our bi-weekly meetings, we can really increase the amount of people there. And while it feels a little wrong, it really does work. And we've been really...
You better watch out. The Democratic Party is going to try to enlist you to be like, I know what we can make people vote for Biden. Donuts.
It really works. I'm telling you now. Yeah, and it's been really great. We've used social media has been another huge thing. Obviously, everyone's on their phones nowadays. So if we can communicate through that, it really has worked out. And those are the two main things I'd say.
I'm also going to say that Pizza to the Polls has already discovered
Oh, yeah,
this.
okay. It already exists. Well, there we go.
Nope. that's
David
not-
Starr, tell me what made you want to get involved with Kiwanis and why you wanted, and the Key Club, by extension, in Northampton high schools, and your environmental focus with them.
So when I moved to Northampton 18 years ago, I wanted to get involved in environmental sustainability and started a bunch of solid waste reduction actions through Green Northampton, which was a nonprofit that I used to run that I started with 9 other people from Northampton. So as that nonprofit grew and had more influence in the community, then I needed to find a way to support my family. So I started Berkshire Natural and had less time for Green Northampton, but Kiwanis gave me an opportunity to get other people in the community involved in volunteer-run activities. I work with a group called Northampton Repair Reuse, and we have all kinds of pop-up recycling, reuse, repair events, as well as running the Recenter out on Glendale Road, which is basically a free swap shop to come take whatever you want.
You used to work with Pee Wee's Playhouse, too.
I did.
I almost called you the day Pee Wee died and had you come on the show, but I was just too sad. I couldn't do it.
Max, you are going to be with the organization for at least one more year because you're a junior. What are you looking forward to in the next year? Not that you shouldn't be looking forward to the paint recycling event that's happening this weekend.
I think the toy drive is a big thing. That's our second, kind of hallmark Key Club big event that we do annually. So that used to be run by the Department of Public Works, but we've taken that on the past couple of years as a Kiwanis Key Club collaboration, similar to the paint drive. And that event, basically, we have a bunch of volunteers come out to the cafeteria of Northampton High School in December, and it's early December, and they collect items from everyone in the community who has extra gifts or toys that their kids aren't necessarily playing with. And then the next day, we just basically have free Christmas for everyone at the Northampton cafeteria. It's amazing. Honestly, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite yearly things to do. Period. It's just such a amazing and impactful event, and to see everyone go home and have kids there just picking out toys for free. It's just so special, and you don't really get that anywhere else.
If you don't like seeing people cry, then don't come to that event.
Yeah.
There are people that are so appreciative and really express their attitude. It's great, Max, and that you and the other students get so much out of it.
We have people driving from Connecticut, and we have also organizations who look out for the community. And at the end of it, also, whenever there isn't toys that are taken, it takes a village. So it's really just end to end. If you drop off toys, someone's going to use them, and it's great to see that.
Well, toys will wait until later in the year. Right now, in the minute we have left, if people are interested in getting rid of the latex paint or the acrylic paint, maybe even that they have in their house, outgoing Key Club president from Northampton, Alex Royce, what do people need to know?
Yes, so obviously the event is this Saturday, starting at 9 a.m., And
At Smith Oak in
At
Florence.
Smith Oak in Florence, correct. And we also are doing a bit of a reservation system. So obviously, like, you don't need a reservation, but we do prefer it as it does help make things more organized. So David is the person that is in control of that, and he can give the contact information for that. David, do you want to
413-270-1234.
And you can reach out to him, and he'll give you a allotted time slot. And besides that, also we request that you don't exit your vehicles, as it makes it much more chaotic, as there's a lot going on already. So that's the main thing. Preferably non-oil-based paints, but we will let you know. We won't take them, but we will let you know. And we take cash, Venmo, or check.
Cool.
Thank you so much. This is great to know that you can make something happen with this old paint. David Starr, who is a managing partner for Berkshire Naturals and the advisor for the Northampton High School Key Club. Max Hartley, the event coordinator and outgoing president. Alex Royce, thanks so much for telling us all about this.
Thank you.
Tuesday on the Fabulous 413, we speak with the people behind the Springfield Symphony Orchestra's upcoming program with Bugs Bunny at the Symphony this weekend.
And we're going to have NEPM's classical host, John Nowacki, join us, so I'm so excited about that. We're also going to have Amethyst Kia, the
Before she
musician.
performs at the Parlor Room, so good. I'm Khalees Smith.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
See you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.